So a few days ago, I thought I'd have a go at entering the Composer's Journey, which is a new competition set up by Orchestral Tools, where you have to use their Berlin Free Orchestra software, which is all samples of orchestra. You've got a whole load of instruments. It's all free. You can just download it and you download the video and have a go. Unfortunately, I did make a bit of a hash of it. And I thought it might be worth making a mistake because although I made a bit of a mess of it, it is a learning experience. I have made some videos before in Reaper and done soundtracks and stuff, and they were more straightforward, but there were some problems with this I hadn't come across before. And from Googling it, it looks like a lot of other people had had similar issues at various stages. So I thought if I laid out what I did, it might help other people and also get it clear in my head as well. So I'll just show you the project. It's a final project I've got in here. If you haven't, once you've downloaded the video, if you don't know how to do this, I'll just show you how to do these bits quickly. So if you insert a track, you just do any in track from there. What you do is you go to Insert Media File, and then you just double click on it, and it will bring it in like that. So I'll get rid of this one because I've already got that one in there, but I just want to mess it up by doing it. Remove track. So once you've done this, you can right click on this and see the properties of it and get to it a long way around. But what you want to do is actually check on the details of the video itself. So the easiest way to do this, I think the clearest way, is just right click on the original file you brought in, go to properties, go to details, and then you get the ones you need here. So one of the things which did trip me up to start with, the important bits are 48 it needs to be, which would be the standard for video. So we need to set that in a minute. Also, we don't need this yet, but when you render it, we need to make sure that these match up because this isn't a standard size. It isn't the standard size for doing a YouTube video or doing OBS or whatever. And these are much bigger sizes as well, so these don't match up. But the one which initially threw me a bit is the frame rate is 25 on this, and all the videos I've done before standard had just been 30, which is the American standard for television, but it's also the standard in Reaper, it's a standard in OBS, and it's a standard in Animotica, which is the video software I use for editing, which is there is a free version of that if you want to try it, but it leaves a watermark on it. But then if you pay for it, it's only about 12 quid anyway, and that's fine, which I mean that works fine. So you need to match these up. So the 25 is the standard for British television frames per second, and it's 30 for US, but you can have other sizes. You can have a weird one, which is 29.97 or something as well, or you can have 24. So, but 30 and 24 in a way make more sense in terms of the music because they're easily divisible in terms of normal sections in terms of 4, but 25 is just a bit clumsy, I think, for doing the music. So anyway, you've got the details here. We might need to come back to these when we do the rendering, and I'll check on that. So once you've brought it in, the video, then you need to go to the project settings. Now, when you first open it up, this bit is misleading. So it does need to be on 48, but if you're using Reaper and unless you're using a really, really old interface, what's actually going to happen is it's going to set it to the actual rate on the interface. So this is showing 44, but it's actually using 48. So if you read this, it says, if unset, hardware default will be used. So it's only going to use what's in this drop-down box unless you tick that. But a lot of people say, oh, you've got to go and select that on 48, but you don't. It doesn't matter if you do, though, because it's just going to use what's ever in there anyway, unless you tick this box. Now, on the video here, you will want to change that to 25 so you can divide this up properly. Okay, so you set that on there. Just thinking, what's the other things? Is there anything else we need to do on here? No, so I think that's it for there. What you do want to do as well is you want to line it up to be frames rather than the normal beats per minute. So if you click on here, then you want to set it on here so that it's doing it by frames. So then what you're going to get is you're going to get a section here. So each section will be a frame. So that means it makes it easier to line up. You can lock in the music and any changes to do with the actual frames as it's going. So once you've got the video as well, you're probably going to want to go through it and get an idea of how you're going to structure it and do it. So because it's a bit of an odd time, it doesn't fit in easily. Most when you start it with DAW normally, it'll be 120, and if you've got a video file which is 30, that's easily divisible, so it all matches off as a starting point, and it's easy to see where the frames fit. 25 is a bit more awkward, but what I did is I wanted it to be a little bit faster. So 120 would normally be just like your normal, just sort of going along steady. And in this video doing is this girl going along on a bike, but I wanted it to be a little bit more than that. So if I set it to 125, that would be a bit more than just like a normal resting heartbeats. And it would also be easily divisible with the 25 for the video. So if you do 125, so it just makes it easier to line everything up. But what you've got to be careful of doing, and something I did do before, is that if you go and change the BPM after you've put in the video, you could speed up or slow down the video and mess that up. So what you need to do to change that is actually you need that in the project settings actually. So I'll go back to that. So in the project settings is you need to set this one here. So by default, I think it would be like here, and you need to change this to beats position only. And then this means that if you change the BPM, you won't speed up or slow down the video. So this is set to 125 anyway on this. You might find if you're doing videos as well, you might want to actually have different speeds at different sections of it. And if you need to do that, you can do, you can go to insert, and then you can actually put in, you can add in the, see where it is. No, I don't want to do it there. No, it would be actually on view. So you have a tempo envelope. So if you did want to change it, you can do that. And then that just works the same way as like a volume thing. So you can right click it and you can speed it up or slow it down. And you can do that now that you've changed the settings on the default settings, that won't mess up the speed of the video. So you can speed up the music and down to it. Right, so I'll just get rid of that. So it's there. So you want it again. It's just underneath master track. Oh, right. So the other thing, while we've got that open, is I'll just untick that. Is once the video is in to watch it, what you need to do is you need to select video here, and then this will pop up on the video. So then if you play it, you'll see the video start going. Right. So I'll just get rid of that for a minute. So my process of doing it to start with when I got my videos, basically to watch through it, just make notes. So it looks like it starts off slow. There's a girl in the video. She's very looking thoughtful, and then she basically gets off a bike, gets energized, goes off, and then at the end, she goes under a tree, calms down, puts her thoughts together, and the way the camera pans back, it looks like there's some sense of resolution. So I wanted to sort of match the pace. So I start off with like just a gentle bit of the orchestral bits on its own. And then there's a bit where she slams the book here. And I wanted to match that up with then the music sort of speeds up and accelerates. You need to line that up so you can see the instruments here from the instrument master goes in here and starts there. And then there was a few other bits in it where I just wanted to match it to go in. So there's a section where she rings a bell, and at that point I'm using some more like bell-like sounds which come in, which match with that. Then there's another bit where it slows down and transitions to the slowed bit, and you just see her bike lying there, the wheel going round. And I've done some of the, it's like a sort of xylophone type sound going that, which matches with that. So I've tried to sort of fit it all in together. So yeah, this isn't a tutorial on actually writing symphonic music, because I don't really know what I'm doing, and I'm just figuring out how to do it and just making stuff up. I will put a link in the in this video so you can see what I've done, and then it will probably start to make a bit more sense, but I'm not going to play the music on this. I just want to give an idea of the structure and then some of the problems I've had. So one thing you might notice is that I haven't got anything on the master here, which is where you'd normally put like final compressor and limiter and anything just to tie it together. And I've put it instead on a separate bus. So I just created a separate bus. Then what you do is you just drag all the other ones on it, put it underneath there. So I'm not actually using that one. I'm using a compressor. I'm using a little bit of reverb, a bit of a tape plug-in, another compressor, multi-band compressor, and then the limiter to get it up to the right type of volume. The reason I didn't put it on here, on the master section here, is because it was making the sound from the video. So in the video, you've got some sound here. You can hear the sound, like there's a book clicking there, which is a loud bit. There's a bell ringing, and there's some background noises. There's some scratching when she's writing on the paper. And if that all went through the normal limiter and brought it up, it all started crackling and sounding terrible. Also, the other thing you might notice on this is that the original tracks, which are the MIDI tracks, where you've got the actual instrument and you've got a sine player on, these are turned off, the effects on this, and it's mute, and then it's rendered out these. So what you do with these when you want to do it is you can go to find it. So you go render freeze tracks, and then you click on that, and then it will create a new track, which is just audio. And it will turn off the MIDI one. And the reason I did that, so what's happening then when you do that is you're baking in all the effects. So what I found was that when I was running, even though it's not a huge project, I found that it was struggling to run all the instances of a sine player. So if you've got a really huge orchestral projects, really complicated ones, you're probably going to need quite a fast computer, especially if you're running the science stuff. But I've also found the same problem. If you're running a lot of instances of contacts, say, it can struggle with it. So one of the things to get around that is, once you're happy with the track and you're doing it, is just to do what I did there. So you just go to write, you go to the render freeze, and then you're basically just putting it out as audio with all the effects baked in and turned it off, so it doesn't have to do all the work every time. So that's something that will definitely help if you're struggling with the resources, which is quite common. The only other thing I did on it, well, actually, to say a bit more on the structure of what the actual music, so jumping around a bit on this. So when the music main bit comes in, I've got a section here. It starts off with just like a bit of piccolo and a vibraphone, then doubles it up again, a higher octave. And then you've got the strings, which is a whole selection. So there's actually lots of instances of strings, but you're using the orchestra, so you're using bass strings, viola, violin, going up in different pitches. So it does like a section of 6 bars of one section, if you look at it, when you listen to it. Then it goes into another section where I'm using marimba and xylophone. So if you look, you can see the MIDI on here where I'm moving it about. So I've got the same basic pattern on there, so you've got 6 bars repeating 3 times. But on the second time, you then add in marimba and xylophone, which are operating in different frequencies and giving different sounds. And then when the time when you go into the next section and she uses the bicycle bell, I'm then using a tubular bells, which gives a sort of more like ringing sound. And then you've got a transition, and on the transition here goes into a bit of a strange rhythmic bit here, and then you've got the bicycle wheel going round, so it's playing some percussion on there. I can't remember what exact. I'll have a look on here and you can see exactly what it is. Oh, it's just one of the things on the percussion, but it's like a ringing thing which fits in with the bicycle, and then it goes off on here and then resolves at the end. It drops down to just the double bass at the end, sort of mellows down and then does it. So this is the basic structure. So I had all the music going on there and it's working fine with video and it all linked in, but then I wanted to render it out. So this is the bit where I made a bit of a hash of it before. So this is what I'm going to show you. So something else, actually, I should say on the render before we even get to that stage is this is a video for YouTube. So how you render it will depend on the platform. With YouTube, you have a maximum volume of -14 LUFS, which isn't that loud. So when you're doing generally modern sort of rock music, metal in particular, a lot of modern music would be more like -10, -10, -9, -10. And there are a lot of people who will advise you and say, well, if you're doing it on YouTube, you should really be doing it for -14 to what's doing it. But it doesn't sound the same as it doesn't sound as good. It doesn't sound as heavy or as powerful. So, but what will happen is if you put out a video, it will just turn it down to -14. So some people say it's compression. It's only compression in the sense that it's turning the whole overall volume. You have got compression as well on YouTube, which is a different issue because there's different types of compression. There's compression like music compression, and there's compression as in like making something a JPEG. And it will do that to varying degrees depending on how busy the network is. So you do get quite a low quality on YouTube, which is sort of disappointing on a variety of levels, but that's kind of what you're stuck with. But anyway, if you're doing something which is mainly talking, then you probably want to render it out to like closer to -14. But if you're doing rock music, you render out and then you just if you look at what you can do is I'll get one up and I'll show you if I got a, so if I have a look at a video on here, I'll just, have one on my own ones here. So actually I'll tell you what, I'll just have a look at this. So I've got videos up here. I've got the one I've just done on here. So if you open it up on here, one thing you can do so you can see what I'm going on about is if you right click on it and you do stats for nerds, then you can see here. So you can see that I've aimed for I've done it was about 13.4%. So if you did exactly 14%, it would be 100%, 100%. If we look at a lot of modern rock or metal videos under this, then what you'll see is that it'll be, some of them are like 50%, it's 54, 60%, it's reduced by, but you don't need to do it for -14. So hang on, if I go back and do this, then what you want to do, but this is orchestral music, it's different. So I'm going for slightly less. So what you want to make sure is you can do a dry run on the sound. So you want to probably aim for a bit less than -14. So it's a bit louder than -14, but without it going red at all when you do the music. So if I do a dry run, I'll run this and then you'll see what's happening. So the figure to look for is the LUFS -L. And you want it to be about -14. So at the moment it's like low because you've only got the quiet intro. And then that's when the book snaps, it comes in. And then you can see the different stages for it. And then it goes quiet at the end. So at the end, it should be about -14 or a bit more than that because you don't want to lose volume on that. You want to basically get as much volume you can. There are other ways you can do to make it seem louder than it actually is, but the loudest it's going to be is -14. Right, so it's -13.4, so that's fine. There's no red lines on it, there's no clipping on it, that's fine. We're now on the render section, we're going out, I'm doing the whole mix in there. You do need to actually set the sample rate, not for the audio rate, but for the video you need to set it as 4,800. And then on here, when it's in the output, you want to select, you've got the different options here. So I'm going to MPEG-4, and then the default on these is going to be basically the same as like you'd have on YouTube, and it's going to be 30, and it's going to be far less on here. So going back to the video here, if I go to properties, I'll get back down and do details. What you want to do is get all these, make sure these all match up. So this is where the first time I did the rendered video, I didn't realize that. And it looked really glitchy and really rubbish. And also it wasn't right, and it was being stretched. So if you look at these, frame height 40, oh, hang on, I just noticed this has got changed on this. So the frame rate on this should be 1440. This has set it back, I think, on this. So that should be 1440 on that. Is that gone? So that should be 1440 on that. It should be 69. So we can just copy it across these. These need to match. So it should be 6961. I think this went back when I changed it just to show you, because it was on the right thing. So when I changed it on here to show the different settings, it put it back. And then on the audio, it's 2304. It's 6961 and 2304. So you need to make sure these match up. And then all you've got to do is you just do the render file for one and it'll render it out. Now, the problem I had, which I made a bit of a hash of things, is that I'm using a Focusrite Solo interface. It's quite just a budgie interface. And it's generally been fine most of the time. But what happened to start with is when I put it out, the video and the audio were out of sync. They weren't matching up. So then I tried to compensate it on the other one, and then I got it. So I moved the audio around and listened to video to get it to match up, and then rendered it. And I thought, oh, that's working now. I don't know why that was doing. I thought this was a problem to do with the configuration and the rendering. And the video is something I didn't understand. And I put that up on YouTube, but I didn't look at it until later on something else. And it all worked fine from my machine, even checking it on YouTube. So it works fine in Reaper. The video all synced out. When I rendered it, it went out of sync. So I had to compensate to make it look right on the final video. And then I put it up on YouTube and did it. But then later on, I looked at it at the telly downstairs and it was out of sync on that. And then I realized eventually what happened is that somehow the actual Focusrite had got out of sync. So this is something which has only started happening recently. So if I have a look at the Focusrite device settings, so you've got them here. So when it's gone out on YouTube, but it's gone out of sync of the voice and the vocals, all I have to do is I just switch it backwards and forwards. And then it sorts it out. It starts working fine. But the weird thing is that when I was doing the Reaper, when I had it working in Reaper here, it all seemed fine, and it only showed as being out of sync when I combined all the audio and the video together when rendering it. So I don't know what, and then because I compensated, I actually ballsed it up because it made it look okay to me, but it wouldn't have been for anybody else. So then I actually had to get rid of my initial thing on YouTube I'd done and delete it all and then do it again, which is quite annoying. So I did look it up. So I looked it up, and a lot of people seem to have the same issue with Focusrite solo interfaces. This seemed to be the only solution, but the trouble is I didn't realize it was happening at the time. So, I mean, an obvious thing I thought was, well, maybe the drivers need updating. I checked the drivers, they're all up to date. There didn't seem to be anything wrong. It just seems to be a weird thing that's happening with the Focusrite solo interface. The other odd thing with it, so I don't know if anybody else might be able to help me with this, is when I use the same interface at work. So since COVID, I've just been working at home. So I've got a separate laptop for work, and I just plug in the interface and my speakers, and I have like music and stuff going while I'm working. And that I've never had any problems with like running music on YouTube or it going out of sync at work. So I think that's a newer laptop than the desktop I'm using at home. And I recently moved to Windows 11 on that. It had Windows 10, it was still fine. So there must be some combination on my PC. It might be because I've got, I suspect it might have something to do with code or the background code I've installed on it for running C++, because I also make like audio plugins and stuff, and I've got these stuff installed on the computer, and I think that might in some way be interfering with it, because it can happen, but I don't know. If anybody has any ideas, let me know. Anyway, so I just wanted to go through some of these problems I've got, some of the ways you can set it up, and some of the pitfalls to avoid, having sort of made a bit of a hash of it, in my own way. Hopefully somebody watches this and they have similar problems, they'll know what to do. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you want to check out the actual video I did and the music thing, as I said, I'm not really like an expert. I'm basically like a failed heavy metal guitarist, but sometimes I just like to sort of twat about with orchestral stuff or with synths and just do different soundtrack stuff. It's quite fun to do. And this is like all the stuff on this you just get for free. It doesn't cost you anything to do it, so you might as well. It's a learning experience and you learn new technical stuff while doing it. So I'll put a link in the video for this video if you want to check out the final thing. It might make a bit more sense of all the stuff I was rambling on about the structure, and then you can look at this video again and then you'll see how it makes sense, and you might get some ideas if you want to have a go yourself at doing something. So yeah, thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye.